Yes. So this is a double solo. I'm not only doing a solo interview with Eli Hoffman this week, but I'm also doing a solo intro as Lydia is in Paris and just finished a show. It's just the schedules didn't line up. So I guess I have to do a monologue about current events. So AI there is now being assigned to translating animal sounds into translatable words. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know. I mean, does logic apply to animals? I don't know. So get ready for that. And of course, how do we know if AI is not lying? What happens if there's like it's like a bad diplomat or translator or something, and we go to war with the animals because they're saying something they're not. I hope that happens. Well, I take that back. We already are at war with animals. Turns out that's been happening for a while. Well, definitely there's a war with alligators in Florida recently. A woman, Cynthia Diakima, I don't know where it is, but she was canoeing with her husband in Lake Kissimmee, just south of Orlando, and I think the husband claims they startled a very large alligator, 11 feet to be exact, and the thing went bonkers and flipped their canoe over, and then immediately just attacked her, killed her. And so then what did we do? Tying this with going to war with animals, we hunted that bitch down and killed it for doing what has been doing for millions of years. Well, not specifically against people, but just anything. And it happened just a couple months ago in Fort Pierce.
Wouldn't AI help with this? I mean, we could understand what was going on and maybe mitigate
You
some of
would
the tension here.
hope so. You would hope so. But, at what point will AI defy us? Will that ever happen?
No,
Uh,
no, because in fact, all it's going to do is it's going to increase harmony between humans and animals.
well, I'm glad it cares. But yeah, I'm just going to continue on with Florida alligator attacks. Actually, I'm going to continue on with Florida animal attacks on humans. So a couple months ago, Gloria Surge, Fort Pierce, Florida, where Mike Fisher's from, was walking her dog, 85 years old, and yes, an alligator launched out towards her dog and killed her. And of course, when I lived in Florida once, that happened when a 90-something-year-old man was mauled by a alligator. A very dynamic way to go after you've passed the 90 mark. To die in one of the most primal ways. It's pretty amazing to live that long and die in that kind of way. But yes, this happened to Gloria Surge. By the way, there's 1.3 million alligators estimated to be in Florida. It's a lot. But what is very rare in Florida, and it happened just on Monday, another person walking their dog. Walking a dog in Florida seems to be dangerous. It attracts things. But in this case, and this is Southwest Florida, must be right around Naples or Fort Myers, a black bear mauled to death Robert Marl walking his dog, excuse the crack of the voice, 89-year-old man, and a black bear came out and just fucked him up. And now, of course, again, the war on animals. They're gonna vote in the county whether a bunch of fucking hicks are gonna go on some kind of wild bear hunting, I don't know, attack. Because suddenly, I mean, I don't know when this has ever happened in modern history. The black bear mauled someone to death in southern Florida, but they're going to get the revenge. All these hicks just couldn't wait. Like, we got to go out and get them because we're in danger, kind of thing. Whatever. That seems to be what's going on in Florida news. Simon, Kanye West, is going to be releasing his Heil Hitler single in any day now.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a Nazi. He loves Hitler. Yeah.
it's really interesting. Are these being censored? I mean, I know skinhead hate core bands like in the 80s, like the US Post Office, like you couldn't really buy those. Like the FBI, and they would track you if you ordered those things. And they did that with pornography. They do a lot of things. But I mean, I guess Kanye's not. He must have an FBI file on him. I mean, I guess anyone can just buy this thing. I mean, I don't think Germans can. In fact, I know Germans can. because I think his new album's gonna just be a swastika. So I don't know. It's just so fucking nuts. I don't think you'll be able to buy that in Germany. You're not even allowed. Yeah, you're not allowed to even have. And I get there's been a few cases of some fine art stuff that use that symbol, but and justify. But for the most part, I don't think you're not allowed to have that, possess that. So I think Kanye's sales in Germany won't be so good. I don't know if they ever
He
were.
also has an album out called Cuck.
Oh God. I wonder if I wonder if he's gonna be invited to the White House anytime soon. I don't think so. Didn't like last year you try to storm the Met Gala red carpet event and he wasn't invited and he was escorted out. He wasn't there this year. Puffy wasn't there either. That was one of his favorite public events.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was intentional because he loved the Met Gala so much that his first day of his trial happened to be start on the same day as the Met Gala. Of course, he wasn't on trial. They were just doing the whole jury selection process. 150 people. It's very complicated because most people know who Puffy is.
He's also aligned himself completely with Puffy too.
Oh, well, Kanye has.
Like Kanye has, yeah. Like he talks to him in prison, really loves him. My favorite move of his was getting dropped by Adidas because of all his anti-Semitic comments, and then tries to cut a deal with Skechers, which is owned by a very
moron.
Yeah,
moron. He's just crazy. I guess everyone forgives him in a weird way because they know he's mentally ill. It's funny because Lou Reed was a fan of Kanye West, the late Lou Reed, and I wonder what Lou Reed was kind of proud of his Jewish heritage. I wonder what he would think of the.
Oh, he would hate it. He would
the new Kanye phase.
I met Kanye and gave him a hug on Houston Street.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's funny.
He seemed actually like a really nice guy at the time. Yeah.
When was this? Like last week?
No, yeah, last week. No, this must have been close to 10 years ago. I was walking down Houston and I see this guy and he's surrounded by a bunch of Asian girls who's taking pictures of him. And I was like, who is this guy? And when I got closer, I was like, oh, that's Kanye West. So I scream out, hey, Kanye. He looks at me as if I'm going to say something aggressive. And I go, I really like your latest album or something like that. And he smiled and gave me a hug. So that was very nice, right?
Speaking of not very nice, there's been some pretty tasteless humor about the latest conflict, which might be a nuclear war between Pakistan and India. The whole world's fucking nuts right now. A lot of people have been writing underneath like the headlines because there was that whole terrorist attack and a bunch of people died. People were like, what's worse is 9/11 versus 7/11. It's what people have been saying. Oh, well, I guess you have to have a mean sense of humor during all this highly tense time in history. It seems to be getting more tense. I don't know. A lot of AI machines are saying that mankind will be completely gone in 10 years. Which is a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. I don't know why we do this to ourselves. As Chomsky says, there's a couple immediate things, or just three immediate things that could wipe us all out, which is like a really serious pandemic, like some really deadly thing. So we're just cutting all institutions that help basically protect us from that. Thermonuclear war, we're just aiming more and more weapons at ourselves and creating higher tensions between the nuclear powers. And then the last one is a environmental disaster, and we are not even slowing down our carbon footprint.
Keeping it light.
We're accelerating it. We're pedal to the metal. It's really, really strange. I read some article, all the wars, Iraq war. I mean, just all of them that where oil was the central motivator and theme. I mean, so many people have died with our insane addiction for fossil fuels and refusal to find an alternative source. And when people, if we are alive, say in 500 years, it's like looking at the history books and the great wars and over what, and people are gonna be like, all these people died because of oil. It's just pathetic. So on a very positive note, I'll leave you with that. This is the Lydian Spin. Tim Solo. Lydia will be back next week. Stay tuned for the interview with the great metal drummer Eli Hoffman. This is the Lydian Spin. Today I'm going solo with the legendary Eli Hoffman. Lydia flew into Paris and she never slept kind of deal, one of those things, and then had to stay up, and she basically her eyes are collapsing right now, and then she's got a show tomorrow, so we have to do it. But this is fine because now we can talk about stuff that she doesn't know about. You know, I mean, she knows about death metal and extreme metal, but she doesn't know about it, right? You know, it's like
totally
from the outside, and we're about Eli and I. Good chance we're about to run into each other in about a couple hours because we're both going to the Napalm Death Melvin show in Warsaw, the venue in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, which I'm looking forward to. I haven't seen.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
I haven't seen Napalm Death since I was a kid. So
no, me neither. Yeah,
and you know what? It's one of those things where I have checked out some of their newer records, and I'm like, it's not a caricature of themselves. They're still progressing. It's kind of
cool. Yeah, I've been watching videos. Last time I saw them was at 930 Club in DC in like 91 or something like that. 92. Well,
it's funny you bring that up because although we have different stories, we're kind of the same generation, and there are some similar trajectories in terms of just being kids into music and what we're attracted to. And by the time 89, 90, 91, like Florida death metal was coming out, maybe because I was not hanging out with musicians, but I was a musician. I was curious about this shit. I couldn't get any of my friends to go to these things because they were on shows. Well, you know, kids are so susceptible to things like fashion and clicks and punk and metal were just this. There was like this line in the sand about what tribe.
Oh, you were more, totally punk rock stuff, right?
Well, so my brother, I had an older brother, he was into post punk, and that was just kind of like the thing. But and also, although I did perk up when Slayer came out, basically my ignorance was I was surrounded by the popular MTV glam metal stuff, which I just thought wasn't that cool, even though maybe some of them I do now. But at the time, I was like, I wasn't that interested. and then once Florida death metal and all that stuff came out, I was like, and then post punk was so stale. I was like, I think I'm jumping ship here, which you know, because my parents were divorced and I was doing summers with my dad in Chicago. So suddenly I had a subway and I could just leave the apartment and go and see these shows. And the only person I could get to go with me is my female cousin. But they were life-changing. So, so I don't know. I'm kind of feeling just investigating.
Very similar with me. Like I was with, I went from like, rock to like, I started playing drums and I started playing like thrash metal bands, like skater thrash type shit, because I was living in Virginia Beach at the time. So it was all about like, skater thrash and all that type of stuff. So surfing too. Yeah. One of my best friends, it was a Navy town. So there was a lot of guys there. Like the guy in my band who was the singer was like from OC, and he had like an older brother. Everything was like, so we got turned on to all the
that culture.
Stuff.
I never made that connection because of Norfolk. Norfolk is the Navy town, right? And so was San Diego. All that, because I knew some kids at music camp that grew up in Virginia Beach. So I was like, oh, there's a whole kind of SoCal skateboarder culture there. But Navy is a connection there. I never considered that. Yeah.
I lived right outside Oceana Naval Air Station there, and it was like, and then the high school I grew up in New York here, and I moved down there when I was like 10 or 9 or something like that.
Sure.
And everything was super segregated up here, and I went down there, and it was like a Navy town with like fully integrated everybody. You know what I mean? So it was like awesome, and it was a huge school too. It was like 2,000 kids or something. So it was like
that makes, so that's another thing, another insight that makes sense is because if I hear Timberland or Missy Elliott or the Neptunes, even though they're coming from black culture, you definitely know they're checking out a lot of other shit. because it was less
Yeah,
segregated.
totally.
Ah, right. Ah, okay.
Yeah, down there it was awesome.
Were you did you get? I mean, was that even evolving? Probably wasn't in the air yet. The Southern rap thing was
Oh yeah,
it
yeah,
back
like
back.
Neptunes. Missy came out a little later, but yeah, the hip hop and rap down there was huge. They were more, closer to the South, so a lot of the Southern rap stuff, like from Texas and from Atlanta,
Yep.
was more popular there. Yeah, like what's his name from the whole clique from Atlanta was huge. Like
You're talking about
yeah,
the short guy that ended up marrying
Bushwick
Janet.
Bill and
Well,
Scarface.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, well that stuff, yeah,
and the
of course.
Alcoholics and of course NWA was big and
Well,
that
well,
whole
well.
thing.
What's interesting is, and I've read, and I don't know if it's there's always a million moving parts, but a lot of it had to do with some sampling laws that had changed. The L.A. versus New York. So much of that was so sample based, and a
Yeah,
lot of the
yeah.
Southern stuff was sequencer based and
Yeah. They were
cover
using
based.
rolling drum machines. Like that's what they had, and it was killer. It was like a whole different sound. It's like you listen to NWA, that's like fully produced, all samples. Hardly any drum machine on that stuff, and then all the Southern rap stuff is like, we got this 303 or an 808, and that's like the whole track. You know what I mean? Very
Totally.
yeah.
There's
So,
also there's some like mafia kind of old school regional things at play too, which is that everything's so global and homogenized now. But like for instance, Chicago being a house town, there were a lot of rappers from there, but they kind of couldn't really say, "Hey, Chicago." It was like, and their influence, like Twister, who was originally Tongue Twister, Chicago
oh yeah.
via Atlanta or Miami, because the Miami stuff too. But it's kind of interesting how all that moves. But going back to you, so we had some similar experiences, but you also come from a music family, and I didn't. So you were exposed to stuff whether you filtered it out or not.
Yeah, my father didn't go like they didn't go too avant garde, but I got exposed to all they were doing club dates in New York, like
Yep.
when we lived down here as a kid. So it was music in the house all day because they had to learn first dance and the whatever for the weddings, and so they
Yep.
had to have like all the new hits, but it was mostly popular music. And then my
Well,
dad would listen to
go ahead.
no, he would
Go ahead.
listen to jazz and blues and rock, from the '70s stuff. So he had all that, and that's what he would listen to for like pleasure. And then all the pop stuff was around too. So
Yeah, I mean, and you might know this guy because he was on the podcast. Because I heard that you were working in the studios with the Rough Riders, rap guys, and stuff like this. This guy, Rich Keller, he was a bass player, but he ended up mixing a lot of the DMX stuff.
nice.
But he was when he first moved here, he was a bass player. He was doing the club dates in Long Island, and he always said back when you could be in a wedding band and buy a house from it, you could actually back
That's
then you get a
yeah.
mortgage based on being in a wedding band, which that doesn't exist anymore like that.
Yeah, like my mother and father were both getting a union scale back then, and they
Yep.
bought a house, and and then they sold the house in New York when we moved to Virginia, and then we were like rich because we had like sold the house in New York and bought a house in Virginia for like a portion of the money, and then
Yep.
my father went back to law school and like and got out of trying to make money playing music thing, you know what I mean? So
Wise man.
yeah.
Well, the joke. You know the joke. How do you make $1 million in music? Start with 2 million. Start with 2 million.
That's a good one.
It is because it's kind of sad.
It's true, yeah.
Yes, it's one of those things.
Yeah, my whole life I've been dumping money into the music stuff, so it's like never ending.
Yeah, well, it's never ending, but I mean, there's also a lot of economic philosophy about saying investing in yourself is probably the best, unless you're totally delusional.
No,
suck at it's like economically and just existentially is maybe the best thing you could do is invest in yourself. I mean, I don't know shit about stocks.
I mean, luckily, a car bomb at this point is like almost self-sustaining, and we don't take
amazing
tours where
Amazing.
we'll take a huge loss, so it's like it's been amazing, like over the last 5 years or something like that.
Well, let's talk about that because I with my band Child Abuse and all that stuff. I mean, I saw you
Which
guys
I
when you were.
love. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
we played shows together. I saw you early on, and it was that kind of, there was a real arc to the recognition and the what's the word I'm looking at? Affirmation and success, and congratulations
Yeah.
on that. Congratulations on that. Amazing. And I'll say this. Check it out. I was doing like an avant-garde show with this Buto dancer, Azumi Oi, and it was in
No.
Switzerland. I was in Switzerland, some kind of small room, but they have funding, and it was like, we did it.
Yeah.
And these guys showed up, and we were talking music and hanging out, and this one guy, I don't know his name, but he's like, Car Bomb took it to the next level. The drums took it to the next level. I was like, well, I know Eli. They're
Some
like,
rando guy.
Yeah, random guy to bar a non-metal show. And so you've actually you've crossed you're not in this
No, we get a lot of props
demographic.
from like I went to go see Tigran Hamasyan a couple weeks ago, that pianist.
Yeah.
And the whole a friend of mine brought me backstage, and the whole band was like shitting themselves that like, oh my God, you're from Car Bomb. I'm
Amazing.
like, and they're non-metal guys. They're like more fusiony guys or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've been, ripping off your rhythms for 15 years or whatever. I'm like, amazing to even hear that. Yeah.
No, that's always exciting when that happens. And of course, if you want, I believe if you want to have success in any genre, it's wise to look outside the margins of that genre. It's going to only inspire more interesting things.
Yeah, totally.
I mean,
I was always like playing the multi-genre thing from when I was a kid. Like once I moved back to New York, it turned into more like that. Like I was playing death metal down there, and I moved back up here, and I was already into all the fusion stuff. So and that was like around the time when it was like Mr. Bungle and Primus and all this type of stuff was coming out, and totally just like went down that rabbit hole.
Yep.
And as I was learning to play weird fusion stuff, those became the songs that in the band I was playing in, so it was like, as I was learning, those were becoming the tunes and stuff. So that was like awesome.
So, I mean, what about and this is the story I've heard, but you might have more insight, that the Gorguts, the classic album, Obscura.
Obscura. Yeah. Luke.
But that was a sub drummer because the other drummer got injured or had a surgery, and they brought in a Quebecois fusion guy, and that's why it's so weird, because he's doing his own interpretation, and it's still one of the most legendary records. Let me talk to you about. I mean, we're being recognized in this day and age as an instrumentalist. I remember like in the 90s, all these drum clinics that are happening, whether it was Weckl or Omar Hakim, in these music stores where they'd sell instruments, and then kids or whoever, not just kids, would pay money, and one of these major session fusion guys will do a clinic, and say Dave Weckl has a click track or a drum machine he plays against, and he moves it a 30-second note, like off out of phase.
Oh, displacement stuff. Yeah.
And we're like, whoa. But I remember, because I went to school for music, and I remember all these kind of dorky drummers would go to these things. I mean, I don't see why not.
I went to a bunch of them. Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is, a lot of them would only go to those things. They wouldn't go to concerts. And so so this was like the seed, I believe, where we are with the YouTube age of virtuoso players from their bedroom, that the virtuosity for some people is more interesting than how it's applied to the music. And
musicality is like a rarity, it's not rarity, but it's like not the focus,
it's not the focus. And I think it's also, it touches certain mindsets, and also a certain obsessive mindsets of what you can do in your bedroom without kind of applying it to the world and realizing it to the world. But this has also made a new batch of stars, And tell me about, I mean, you must, because I see some of your videos that you
I
put
get
up.
messages all the time where it's like, "What are you thinking while you're improvising or while you're playing this stuff?" I'm like, "What am I thinking? I'm thinking about playing the part." You know what I mean? Or if I'm improvising, I'm like, I'm just kind of get the flow thing going. But like it's just playing for forever. You know what I
Playing
mean?
forever. Yep. I know exactly. No, it's like us talking right now. If you've been doing it your whole
Yeah.
time, your whole life, that's what starts happening. You can just do that. But what I'm getting at is you probably have a bunch of fans that maybe don't even see your concerts.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's drumming fans versus fans of the band.
Yeah.
You know, the- a lot of times they listen to the band as like a novelty. They won't listen to it and like take it seriously as music. You know what I mean? But they love the composition and the rhythmic aspect of it. So that's
Yeah.
which is fine.
Which is fine. Which is fine. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
As it's harder to be, I find in many ways to be in a band just because of the overhead and travel. All this stuff is more complicated, bigger pain in the ass. Finding other avenues to connect is beyond fine. It's just interesting that it's gone in that direction. Uh, what did you think? Maybe I'm stubborn, but to get over when you're a young musician, people have some preconceived ideas how they approach things and what to accept, what to not. Were you just always fluidly open? Like, did the drum machine when you were 11 or 12? I wouldn't say threatened, but kind of confused. Like, do I accept this, or were you always open to
I
all
mean, that was like
technology?
so like even industrial or any of that, which started coming in like in the mid '90s with like Nine Inch Nails or all the
Ministry,
industrial metal stuff.
yes, yep,
Yeah, so I didn't. I never even went down that avenue. I would listen to a ton of electronic music, but I didn't really try and play along with that stuff. But I
yep,
would never never did much of it with the band.
yep,
So and I would, like I said before, like I was just listening to like wide open palette, like multi-style stuff, and trying to
yep.
jam that in all into one band. Anyway, so it was kind of it was a cool philosophy from that standpoint. And I was really into like the odd meter stuff and a lot of Latin stuff and and then obviously metal and then progressive metal and all that type of stuff. And I kind of mash it all together. But I've never played in a band really since the death metal stuff that was like not semi experimental. You know what I mean? So
Interesting,
yeah, at all.
interesting. My buddy Miles Levy is the son of Howard Levy, the harmonica virtuoso who's in Bella Fleck and the Flecktones, and he was always like
Oh yeah, yeah,
a top harmonica session guy. So he's like on Steely
yeah,
Dan, right?
yeah.
He's on all that shit. But his dad was a little more into down the middle stuff, even though he was like a virtuoso and kills it. And yet his son who was exposed to this whole music world, gravitated towards the more, I don't know, challenging, more experimental, a little more daring
Yeah,
for
I mean,
the
the
general
Bellafleck
public.
stuff is impossible. Like all the
Yes.
metal guys stole all the Bellafleck, banjo technique stuff and put it on each string guitars. That's like
Well,
where that came from.
not that I was leading this, but it's making me think. Victor Wooten was on a later Nitro record.
Like the band Nitro
The metal, like
with
operatic,
Michelangelo and shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
No. They had like an album that came out like 8 or 9 years ago, and they hired Victor Wooten on bass, which I haven't
Amazing.
heard. I should check that
No,
out.
that's a must. I gotta
Yeah,
check it.
I gotta check that out. Oh, the other one I still haven't checked out, I can't believe, is Dave was saying when he went really Christian.
Oh, Vinny
Vinnie
playing on
Colaiuta.
the
Vinnie Colaiuta. I think they
yeah,
played
yeah,
all the instruments except for the drums.
yeah. And then Vinny's like, playing metal stuff, It's
Yeah,
which is cool because it was kind of loose. It was kind of looser than the normal metal stuff.
well,
So
he can play. Vinnie Colaiuta can play anything, right? I mean, that's
yeah, I'm basically yeah. I mean, he's been my number one guy since I heard Alan Holdsworth, and
I saw. I think it was on one of the social media. I couldn't find it on YouTube, but Shaka Khan I Feel for You on SNL in '84, and it's Vinnie Colaiuta on drums, and destroying it. I mean, he's kind of down the middle, but there's just something so urgent and
the
fluid.
little embellishments and the groove. That bass player, I think he's the musical director also, is killing it.
Jimmy, but
on the Shaka stuff, he plays like the sixth string.
Oh, so on the SNL one specifically, it wasn't him. I think it was Jimmy.
I don't know. There's a couple of live concerts with her with Vinnie on drums, like, you know.
Okay, I think this one was Jimmy Haslip from Yellow Jackets. Was
was. Oh, wow. Yeah.
He was left-handed. I was like, I think that's
lefty. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going like this. Yeah.
Exactly.
He's a motherfucker too. Yeah.
It's funny with the early Madonna. Dave Weckle's on a lot of those ones.
Is Weckle? I know it was Omar Hakeem was in the band for quite a while.
Omar Hakeem was in the band for a while, but the early stuff, like I think he's playing Like a Virgin, but definitely Material Girl. That's Tony Thompson.
Weckle?
No, that's Tony, that's Tony Thompson, which is that song. It's it's
a great song. I love that early Madonna stuff. It's so good. Yeah,
but the drums on that are insane.
Yeah, and they're playing time over the drum machine, but you can feel with it doubled up. It makes it feel way better than the normal dance stuff.
Well, it's also a lot of that early stuff is Anthony Jackson on bass, who's doubling the synth bass, but it's the same idea.
And he's my number one fucking bass player. Like, if you ask me who your favorite bass player is,
so for electric bass, that's kind of live electric bass performances. Like Anthony Jackson was kind of, I can appreciate all of them, but because I never Jocko or anything, but that was the only one that was kind of humbling. I was like, this guy is insane, like insane. And of course, he can't really play anymore.
I was listening to him on all the like Latin fusion stuff.
That
he was doing at the time, and he like the way his phrasing, like with the he'd go lay on the low B like at the most and like hold it just perfect. It's just perfect,
Well, he's got this almost savant sense of metric time, but he also knows how to apply a human element. So it's kind of like here we go.
I got to see him play with Krantz a couple of times.
Okay,
that was a weird band. It was Carl Locke and Anthony Jackson and Wayne Krantz. That was fucking awesome.
That was like he was playing like West Village or something like that down there.
55 bar. Yeah, 55 bar before they.
Funny to see him at 55 bar. Yeah, that's and then he got a stroke recently, so he's not really playing anymore.
Yeah, I think he's recovered. He had the stroke and then he recovered, and he's been gigging. He's a lot skinnier now, but maybe he had another one. I don't know.
No, well, they had it. They definitely had like a tribute kind of GoFundMe-ish kind of thing with all the stars there recently. I think just there's a lot of complications with it. I think post-stroke, there's a lot of complications.
He's got to be a super older guy now, so.
Yeah. And the word is, down at the Fodera factory, because it's near my studio. I go there sometimes.
Yeah. I was down there in Sunset for a long time, for like 15 years.
I'm in Bush Terminal now. That statue building. I have a whole second floor there. But
I had a whole floor of a building and over there, and I fucking moved out at exactly the wrong time.
Well, there's a complicated. I snuck in because there a lot of that development got kind of put on hold with the pandemic, and then they need holding mats, and I kind of got in with the EDC. It's a whole other
I moved out in like 2015 or something like that. 2016. All
right. We just missed each other, and now you're in Long Island City.
Now I'm in Forest Hills. I ended up renting a whole house instead of doing the apartment life. Yeah.
Now we're talking. Forest Hills, those nice houses over there. Cool.
Nice. Yeah. But the whole house is way cheaper than the luxury apartment in Long Island City. By like thousands.
For you listeners out there, I don't necessarily want to give this secret, but I should. When people are looking for apartments and they're like, oh my God, like a 1, 2, maybe 3 bedroom. I can't afford these. Look for a 6 or 7 bedroom, and then suddenly, relative to that price, it drops. So fine.
No,
So fine. It's like, okay, 2,500,
no, there'll be
3,000.
nothing at the $3,000 range, and it'll
Yeah.
be wide open at 4,500. You know what I mean? Like with
It-
tons of space and like
I was on the fence. I almost jumped on it, but it's kind of a suburban life choice. But in the nice part of Rockaway, like Bell Harbor
yeah, Rockville's
area,
nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
around there, I was seeing houses 7 bedrooms. If 7,000, you'd have to have like a party house with your friends, but 7 or 8 bedrooms, but a huge house, sometimes a swimming
Yeah.
pool. So it's like 7,000 versus 3,500 to be in a closet. But you need a car. I mean, you have to live like a
Yeah,
suburban
yeah.
life. But
Yeah, like I run my whole business out of here, and I have a car over the driveway here, and it's like it's unbelievable, the
awesome.
garage and everything. So
And Fort
yeah,
Hill's got some good restaurants and spots, and
great. Yeah, great food. Yeah, it's kind of close to everything, So
because Metropolitan's right there, right? Like the
well,
end of
Queens
Metro.
Boulevard is right up the road,
Right, there's that too.
so I'm
I'm
between
saying,
the Grand Central Parkway and Queens Boulevard. Yeah.
okay, yep. Isn't there that ice cream place that's like an old parlor from like the 1920s in Forest
Oh
Hills?
yeah, down on Metropolitan there.
Yeah,
I forget what it's
yeah.
called.
I forget what it's
That's
called.
like ASCAN and Metro, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
My whole family lives down there in Metro, like right in that area. So that was my main reason for moving back over here. So
Sure. So basically, you grew up in Long Island, moved to Virginia, moved back to New York.
back to Long Island,
Okay.
and then when I was like 19, I moved into the city, and I've just
Yeah.
been apartment hopping in the city for the last I'm almost 50 now. So
I
yeah,
just turned 50. It's
you
such a
did.
gift.
Congrats, you did
On
it.
Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this Friday? Oh man,
Last Friday. It happened.
drinks are on me,
1975.
baby, tonight.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. 97. Are you 76?
I'm
75?
77, so I got another 2
Oh,
years. I just turned 48 a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so then you moved back to, were you at Suffolk or were you
No, close, really
Nassau?
close. It's like the first town in Nassau County, so it's like right on the Queens border.
Oh,
Valley
okay.
Stream. Yeah.
I know Valley Stream, and one of the funnier, of course, from a distance, Valley Stream story was one of those a Walmart riot happened at Christmas, like
Oh, it's Sunrise Motel
15 years
or
ago,
mall there.
and the mall cop got trampled to death. It was,
Oh, I remember that.
yeah, because
You,
it's
you were
basically
there for that?
no. Well, I was there in spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, well, the word was like they had one of these kind of Christmas sales specials, and then like sort of like a general admission late 70s rock concert. People were like kind of piling up, like open up, and he was
And
kind
the
of
guy
like,
got crushed. Or something.
well, he was like on the spectrum, and he was kind of like taunting them with the keys, like not yet, and like doing all this stuff. And they opened the door, and then basically a stampede just ran over him, and that was the end.
Beat him to death for taunting them. Yeah.
Oh, they just ran. They did. I don't even think they saw him. I don't know. They stampeded him. But
Crazy
yes.
shit. Yeah.
In the name of consumption. Did you go to a lot? So, all right, you moved back from Virginia.
So I started gigging in Virginia and playing gigs. Like I got in a band and we immediately started playing shows. Yeah, so I've been going to shows religiously since basically then, since like 90. Yeah. Traveling to go see shows and play gigs and stuff. So
you know what's his name? Little Steven from Bruce Springsteen. He was saying like what was interesting in the 80s was like a lot of the North they got rid of these youth centers where kids could go and check out live music. And he's convinced that's when kids started getting into drugs more than when they had places for kids to go. And I definitely, as I was saying, like for me, unless my parents took me to a concert, it wasn't until in high school where I'd spend the summers with my dad in Chicago, I had a subway I could go, but my mom lives in Massachusetts, and so there's just wasn't a real
No,
nightlife experience, but in Virginia there was. It seems like, or is that just because you're playing?
it was I was playing in the bands, so and then I was like everybody at the local smaller clubs kind of knew me because I was playing in bands with like semi older guys or whatever. So I was
Yep.
like novelty death metal drummer kid or whatever.
Yep.
So they would let me in. They would just keep an eye on me, like as far as like drinking booze in the clubs or whatever. But
Sure.
that was kind of like an in for me at the smaller shows. And then my mother and father were pretty pretty damn loose with keeping an eye on me. They kind of just like let me do my own thing.
So you're pretty
Yeah, and like
feral. You're pretty feral.
totally feral. Yeah, yeah,
All right. Well, well, I mean, my parents knew I mean, I would get into trouble. They didn't want like teenage pregnancy. They don't want, so they weren't heavy handed with their discipline, but they they
yeah.
they
Like
kept
my
me
parents got
busy.
divorced also, like when we moved back to New York, and then me and my old man moved in together, and he ended up like getting a new girlfriend and moving out, and like left me a 2 bedroom apartment that we were living in by
Oh yeah.
myself when I was 16. You know,
Yep.
so the shit was on. I was like playing in a band, selling weed, and like having
Yep.
parties, and like so it was like got an early start on all that stuff.
Well, you came out alive because
Oh yeah, yeah,
getting
yeah. I
into
mean,
this.
I got it all fucked up, yeah. And then I ended up getting totally sober for like 20 years. I was sober,
Well,
and then
well,
I quit that a couple of years ago, and now I'm just like having drinking here and there, and
yeah. I mean, if you can come out alive and that stuff, I I feel lucky. I feel lucky that I had any kind of
I
success.
feel totally lucky. Yeah, I should
I
have been dead back then.
uh,
You know.
well,
Yeah,
we both know people who didn't make it. I'm sure
yeah.
we
A lot of
both,
people. Yeah,
yeah, they don't make it, and it's that's a hard truth.
they're still not making it. You know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
real thing.
It's a real thing, and here we are, and there's oh my god, that's a whole other conversation. So tell me about Car Bomb and where it's at. You guys do it on your own terms. You release your own material. You've done big tours. You play big metal festivals at this point. Um,
Yeah.
with the larger venues, um, do you
It's
use
so nice playing larger venues.
but do you use triggers or do you do acoustic miking?
Everything's acoustic except for the kick drums. So those
Yep.
are triggered.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't need to have them triggered, but it's like part of the sound at this point. You know what I
Well, it's
mean?
also part of the sound, but it's I would imagine in festivals when there's kind of it's hard.
Really
There's
quick.
a
Yeah.
timeline, and that's just dialed in. And
Yeah. So as long as they get, they can fuck around with everything else like over the first or one or two tunes if we don't get if we only get a line check or something like that, but as
yep,
long as the kicks are hitting and the snare is hitting, then like right from the get-go, then you can kind of work with everything else. But
yeah,
and I'm in ears now at this point. Yeah.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. Do you guys use any backing track sequencers? Are you playing to
No, it's
program?
all live. It's
Oh,
all
live,
yeah.
good
So it's all live. I'm using the in-ears more just for like to be able to hear my
for sure.
actual kit and the guitars and the bass, instead of get rid of all the boomy,
Absolutely,
underwater type of feeling stuff. So
Ab-
it's been amazing. Yeah.
game changer. Okay, yeah, I remember seeing this death metal festival, like a little one at Wetlands when it was like only jam bands and like metal bands.
Yeah, totally. I used to go there all the time.
We might have been to the same ones. And I remember wanted to go see Cryptopsy and Origin was on it, and I just remember Origin had triggers on their at least definitely on their kick. I don't know on other things.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's just a kick guy, but he's like maybe, yeah, I think only the kick, but he's like, you know,
But what I'm saying is,
it sounds like putting a playing card like in a fan. You know what I mean? It's
a-
fucking insane.
absolutely. So it was basically because there were so many bands and they weren't necessarily getting it right, and then immediately just by having that, you could hear the band and it tied everything together where it'd be like mush.
Totally. Yeah,
Is
death
it,
metal especially. Like if you can't hear the kick drum, like as like the loudest thing, kind of, then it doesn't sound like death metal, and nobody can. All you hear is just cymbals. It's like fucking a nightmare
uh,
as
uh,
audience member.
I would
Forget
say,
about like playing and not be able to hear it.
I would say almost all metal. I had free tickets to Slayer at Jones Beach a couple of years ago, and Dominica, she didn't really grow up with Slayer, so she had no idea what the fuck she was even hearing. It was all abstraction at that point. Like I knew those songs, so I could connect the dots in my head. But if you had never heard those songs, we were kind of far back.
It sounded like a mess, or
it's just a blob, basically. It was just like
yeah.
You have no idea what's going on, and then of course it's, you know, the perception or the idea is like, oh, this is gonna be this somewhat fast music, but it comes across as slow because everything's blurred and the harmonic rhythm's slow, but all the actual rhythms fast. So it's like,
you know, the high tempo shit like doesn't really translate in huge venues. You know what I mean?
No,
as much. Now it's getting better because you have fills everywhere and this, but like outdoor stuff, it's kind of like doesn't. And even then, it kind of gets everything.
If there's a breeze,
it gets weird.
It. If there's a breeze, forget it.
Like if we play rooms bigger than like, I don't know, 2,500 cap or something like that. I mean, it's we start to get that like this room is not, you know, made for this many notes. You know what I mean?
No. Totally.
It's made for AC/DC. You know.
And I saw AC/DC at Madison Square Garden some years ago, and I'm like, this is arena rock, and it translates so well. And then prog rock in an arena, help.
No mess. Yeah.
Forget it.
There's a reason it's not as huge as that stuff. So.
Right. Do you guys have any big tours or festivals coming this summer?
Yeah. So we got new. So we dropped an album like 3 weeks before the pandemic hit. Like,
yep, I know.
The absolute most wrong time ever, you know?
Yep.
And we were over in Europe, like starting the tour, like the first week of the tour, and we had to just like escape Europe, you know, and get back. And then so we started touring again, like once the restrictions started loosening up a little bit. So we did tour, we did a run with this band Between the Buried and Me, and then Animals as Leaders we did a run with, and like but we recorded all the we had so much material from the pandemic, so we recorded everything that we had, and now we're releasing an EP first just to like get something out right now, and then after the summer we're going to do August, we're doing a bunch of metal festivals in Europe, and then like filler dates in between that, and then directly after that we're going to Australia with Animals as Leaders. You know, it'd be nice to play a local gig, you know, because we haven't played a local gig in a while. I think the last time we did with the Metal Injection Festival a couple like over last summer, I think, or that was like but
with Vitus
not much
being
in the
gone,
US.
with Vitus going, although you might so where for a band like Carbon, where do you play as a headliner in New York City these days? What are the options?
You know, we don't even know how much we draw really at this point. Right, you know what I mean? So we'll probably end up doing something like 200 cap or 200 or 300 cap.
TVI maybe.
And there's only a handful. TVI maybe would be cool, or what is that, Meadows, which is connected to the Monarch there.
Right.
That's a pretty cool room with a backyard, and where else? I mean, those are really the only mid-sized rooms. I think there's one on Johnson. Yeah, that's a decent sized room too. But
did you go to Lemoore growing up in Bensonhurst? Did you go to?
No, I kind of missed Lemoore because I came back in like '93 or something like that, back to New York.
But because it went out of business, and then there was like a 2-year stint later of Lemoore that came back. I don't know.
Oh, really? I missed the original one, and maybe I went to one or two. It wasn't as legendary as the original one, so
right.
Yeah, I didn't spend much time there. I used to go into all the clubs, and you know, I go to CB's, and I would go to Coney Island High and Continental and Brownies and all those places.
Classic. Are you in Australia? Are you going to? I wonder if there's so much extreme metal out of Australia. I wonder if you're going to be rolling with some of those insane bands or not. But you guys are your
Oh
own
yeah,
niche,
I'm
though.
friends with I'm friends with all those guys. Like a bunch of bands in Australia, a couple of bands out of New Zealand that are all just drummer connection stuff. But even
Sure.
some of the non crazy metal stuff, like the Carnival guys, and like
Yep.
there's a bunch of killer bands out of Australia.
Oh,
It's like what the
ridiculous.
fuck is in the water? Yeah.
Well,
So
that leads me to my next question. The surplus of insanely talented and sometimes really esoteric extreme metal bands is pretty high. And
yeah,
is it like, how do you stand out now?
can't
There's
keep
probably,
up anymore.
you can't even keep up. And of course, a lot of those bands can't even leave their bedroom. So they can't actually realize it on, in
As a
reality,
full band, touring band, yeah.
or tour, or just getting it out in the public. So I
Yeah.
understand, but I guess that's the problem with, or that's a question for basically everything in the future with AI and all that stuff. Where is it all going? But
Yeah, like I people send me stuff like, "Oh, this is crazy! You got to hear this." And I turn it on, and I can tell it's a drum machine faking a real drummer, and I just turn it right off.
interesting. So do you? Next question, like like agoraphobic nosebleed, like a drum machine grind or something like that. Does that? Do you have no interest in that?
That's like parody. You know that's like funny grind with the drum machine. It's not trying to be a real drummer. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay,
but
right,
you got these
right,
people like massaging. They got these amazing drum plugins now, and
right.
one guy is putting out an album from his bedroom with these drums on it. You know, and it's like, oh, check out this killer drummer. I'm like, dude, that's not a real
Well,
drummer. You know,
but couldn't you even argue though, like once Pro Tools hits the world, I mean, even if it is live drums and it's all quantized in its own way and
right.
less folk art and bizarre, does that turn you off? I mean, Origin.
Oh yeah, the
that,
chopping and gritting.
Yeah, does that not appeal to you? I mean, some guys could actually do it. Like when I saw Origin live, I was like, holy shit! But
Yeah. But there's so much of that is in the production of like making the drums sound like you're fucking beating the shit out of them, but you're just tapping. You know what I mean?
totally. Yep.
So in the studio, so that's a turn off for me. Like the
That's a turn off.
dynamic baking shit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, so you want muscles? You don't want your fingernails clicking on the desk touch. You actually want some power.
Right, and then putting it through a signal chain that makes it sound huge, and then doubling up with samples and all that shit. You know what I mean? It's like, but I'm an older guy. Like the younger people don't give a fuck if it's a drum
they
machine.
Don't give a shit about that.
No, yeah.
But if you know, so I saw Tony Williams, but with the jazz guys, like people would say Elvin
that
Jones.
guy played loud as.
Oh yeah,
so loud,
so insane. And then people, I never saw Elvin live, but Elvin Jones, supposedly that was just, you couldn't fucking believe it. Even Gene Krupa, back in those drum battles and big band, supposedly that shit was insane.
Yeah.
And there's a
and I'm not even really a wailer. I'm kind of like more of a technician than a guy who wails. But I play fucking hard. You know what I mean? Like overall,
you play hard, but there's a thing about
I can't play fast. That's the reason I can't play fast is because I play hard. You know what I mean? I'm too old now to like change my technique to like try and play these super fucking high tempos. Like, I just can't.
Well, you're not going to be able to.
Not going to win that contest, buddy.
There's always a new generation of youngsters that are going to go faster and faster.
Yeah, I'll throw in like a little bit of like a chunk of blasting at that tempo that can hold for like 5 seconds or 10 seconds, just to like be like, whatever. But you got these guys playing fucking 45 minutes of that, like straight live,
And how
and they
long
have to change their.
How long do they play for though? Like, how long's their career? I know there's. That's.
Well, in that genre, I don't know. I mean, mostly the more career stuff, and that's in that. A lot of the really fast guys are like the black metal guys, where it's just like, they're playing the super fucking fast, like hyper blasting shit for 30 minutes, without playing anything else, and it's all 16th note bass stuff. It's kind of like monotonous, for me.
Yeah. Well, I with that stuff, even if I'm into it, I have a tendency I can just drift off and fall asleep. It's almost like white noise, like a white noise machine in a weird way.
Exactly.
It's kind
Yeah,
of
with the wall of
interesting.
guitars playing open chords, like
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
It's like time to take a nap.
which is
Uh,
cool for a little bit. I can't do a whole night of it though. Yeah,
I mean, I guess by not doing that and hitting somewhat hard and then playing dynamically, it also opens up to you with timbre and actually having a dynamic tone. I mean, if you
yeah,
can
yeah,
play dynamics, you can really bring life to your actual drums altogether.
yeah. It should sound like a dynamic instrument. It's like the most dynamic instrument. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
from a tap
Totally.
to a crack. It's like but that's you don't hear like these bring it down breakdown sections in metal anymore. There used to be a lot of that because now if you try and do that, the drums are all at 100% all the time.
Right.
Like even for me, like I can't really bring it down because I'm using the kick sample. So if I bring it down, I just got to go
It
all
makes no
hands and
sense. Yep.
not hit the kick drum. Yeah,
That
yeah.
make yeah.
Or else it's like boom in the middle of
Oh,
a quiet section.
it's so interesting. Yeah. One dynamic and just where we are in the world with compression. Yes, that makes sense. It really shapes what kind of
Yeah,
music
just
you're going
slam
to
everything.
write. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know this rumor that basically Alex Van Halen live used like the Simmons kick?
Oh
That
yeah,
that that's so it is true.
totally.
It is true. Makes sense. Or Hopper Teacher, I think was that right?
That's all Simmons pads. Yeah, yeah.
That's
With live
funny.
cymbals and a live snare drum. Well, no, I think it was a Simmons snare too, because like boom, you know. So
Ah,
he had the pad set up, and then he had like 100 octobombs like in front of it with like five
yeah.
bass drums. But I don't think he was hitting any of that stuff. Maybe he was for certain tunes, but
Spectacles and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But he's
It
still
was
a
great.
great fucking drummer.
Oh, sure. And of course that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was Hopper Teacher was a ripoff of Billy Cobham's Quanta
Oh yeah.
with
Was it?
Jan Hammer on
Yeah,
guitar.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Everybody was worshiping Billy back then. Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny about the zeitgeist and the drummers that people were obsessed with, and what seems so significant at the time that maybe at least that style has an expiration date, and then what else people are into later that maybe wasn't as cool at
My
the
dad,
time.
like my dad, put on the Maha stuff, and he was like, "You want to hear the crazy shit?" And then he would put on like Birds of Fire or whatever. You know what I mean? I was like, "What is this?" When I was a little kid, so I kind of got drawn towards that kind of manic thing. Yeah,
For
I
sure.
love that stuff still. Yeah.
It was weird. It was interesting. Like, what turned me on to death metal was Obituary, and then I kind of like got less interested in them. I was like Morbid Angel and all that stuff's better, but
And
recently
then you come back,
I've kind of been coming back to Obituary again. I was like, because
dude.
it's
I just
not.
bought obituary tickets like yesterday. Yeah,
Oh, funny. I I saw the Causes of Death tour, and it
at
was with
Vitus. Are you talking about the original one?
the
Yeah,
original Causes of Death tour. I saw that
yeah.
at the Vic Theater in Chicago. It was with was it Malevolent
Nice.
Creation, Cannibal Corpse, Butchered at Birth,
Wow.
but it was
Yeah.
Agnostic Front was also on that show.
So weird.
Well, they're having to like the promoters had to bring those worlds together because they
The
needed to
crowds. Yeah.
sell tickets. But
Yeah.
and Cannibal Corpse at the time I thought that was like a novelty, almost joke band. I think it ages extremely well. It's way
Oh yeah.
bizarre.
I just saw them last week open up for Meshuggah at Madison Square Garden
Oh,
Theater.
what? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All
Yeah.
right, all right.
That was like fucking crazy.
So when we first talked about you being on this, you had some new material that you wanted to
Oh,
push. Or
sorry. Yeah.
is that not out yet, or is that the
It's
thing you
not
have?
out yet. It's not out yet. It's coming out like we have the PR and everything is all in line. So I think the single and the video is going to drop within the next couple of weeks.
Is this
So,
Car
but it's
Bomb or
not announced yet.
your own stuff? Is it your own stuff or is it Car
No,
Bomb?
this is Car Bomb. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So
Full on Car Bomb single with a video and
are we not even
all
allowed
that
to
stuff.
say? Are we not even allowed to say what it is? I mean, for people to keep their eyes and ears open to look what to look for, or it's like a secret like PR release date.
Well, we hire PR, so it's going to be a proper, release and press and all that type of stuff. But just for our purposes, the only, it's just like 3 like fucking bangers, like and
Yep.
that's the EP.
Yep.
Yeah. and then all of those each of those will have a video, and it's fucking it yeah between those three tunes, it's people are going to be happy for the short term anyway. It's funny with us because Car Bomb is so dense. Like if we release a 50-minute record, which we have done, have more than half the record is just going into the ether anyway, unless you're like a superhead who listens religiously. So
the album is, it started with single. Industrialized music started with a single, or I should say, recorded industrialized music started with a single, and we're back to the single again, right? The album is kind of not a thing right now, and who can sit through more than 35 minutes of
Car Bomb
of anything almost.
It's a hard, like, and on top of and it's a hard listen. You know what I mean? So you got to be like you got to be really into it to fucking do it.
That's fine though.
But then it's like a catch-22 also, because as a band who doesn't have any budget or anything and kind of relies on selling something in order to get money in, you can charge $10 or even $20 for an LP of a whole album. Or whatever. But if you only have a single, you're only getting 99 cents for that or whatever,
Right.
So that's a consideration also. It's like, oh, we spent fucking, $30,000 putting this record together. Like, what is our recoup on it? And it's like, if you have an album, you can make it back, like actual physicals and stuff, but not a single,
Do you?
But it's so that's something to consider.
You guys also do all your own lights, right?
Not anymore. We gave up on
Why? Just too many jobs. Too many jobs to do at once.
Too many jobs, and we were doing a lot of. We were like always like mid set. The middle band or direct support in the set.
Not enough
so like
time
doing the up and down thing.
Yeah,
the up and down thing is fucking insane. Yeah, especially like. Yeah, we just can't do it all ourselves anymore. So we'll hire an LD. If we're headlining, we'll bring a lighting pack. We'll rent a lighting package, and then have an LD run it. But it's not triggered from the drums like it used to be, which was a very cool thing. You know what I mean? But it's a lot of work on the road to make that happen every night.
Yeah.
We'll be opening for some huge band like Gojira, and we go up there with our fucking science project, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?" You know what I mean? It's like,
well, I mean, that kind of, I mean, the DIY
they
lights,
totally respect it, but they're fucking like laughing at us while we're trying to get off the stage and shit. You know?
Well, there's something to it that's kind of cool. If I was a teenager that was like maybe thinking outside of the norm, I saw that'd be. I can imagine that being inspiring almost, sincerely.
It was a different way to do it too, because most bands, if they have a lighting rig, they'll tie everything to a click on the laptop and just have it run, like just play along, because the whole band is playing to the click. But we were doing it where I was sending live MIDI from the drums. I had triggers on the drums, but not for audio. They were just to trigger lights. And then I would send that to the guitarist, and he would program all the lighting that we had, and like the lighting reaction would be tied to his guitar patches.
Yep. Yeah. Well, okay.
And all right. And sending DMX to all the light fixtures. It was like really involved. It wasn't like threw a couple of lights up there. It was like it was cool.
I mean,
because you can get that effect of everything being synchronized to a click.
Totally.
But it was live still. Yeah. Yeah. So
that's awesome. So what's the
We're
date?
Lazy now.
Whatever. Well, what's the date that this is coming out? Do you know? For people,
I'm not even positive.
Are in a couple of weeks, in a month, and 2 months, something like that.
A couple of weeks. So probably like 3 weeks. I think it's like early June. So maybe the first week in June or something like that. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, and for the people that are listening to this, keep your eyes and ears open for that, because that's exciting.
It's coming. Yeah, it's fucking after 5 years. This is our first release. Well, we put out a live record, but this is like the first release of new music. So
have you toured Australia before?
No, first time.
All right. So you should definitely.
Haven't been Australia, haven't been Japan, haven't been to South America. Yeah. So
what? All right. Well, I think you should go to all those places. I think that would be incredible.
Oh, this when the album drops, we're gonna do a proper you get to all the places. Yeah.
You should do all of those. Australia, I would say sneak in a few secret shows if you can too, because there's a whole secret show culture there. Of course, you have to negotiate that with, I don't know who's promoting it, but those
Yeah,
small
totally.
Australian shows are pretty fun and like pretty wild. But yeah. Um, Eli, I'll probably, I don't know, see you in a couple hours.
I'll see you in a couple hours. Yeah.
It was a pleasure. And I thank you for taking
Dude,
time
thanks
out
so
of
much
your
for
day.
having me on. Yeah.
Yeah, really fun. And yes, Eli Hoffman and of Car Bomb, a couple weeks. They have some new material coming out, so check it out.